And good morning. Been up a long time already, about 5 minutes to 2. Anyway, the heart and mind of God is the title for today. And the blurb is, some portray God as an indifferent parent, sort of like reptiles. The offspring are on their own. Survival is pure chance, and there is complete neutrality in the matter. I've entertained that idea myself. And while it may make some sense when viewing the external world, it leaves a feeling of alienation. It has no heart, no love. My extended contemplation this morning explores the heart and mind of God as best I can from a human perspective. Indeed, I've never been an atheist. All of my life since childhood, I felt I knew God. The older I have gotten, and the more experience I I have questioned just how much I do know. And I have explored every theological and philosophical aspect that I've run across in my life, and I've been willing to explore nihilism and existentialism and other things other philosophies that might tend toward atheistic or agnostic points of view. And there's times, I guess, I have been agnostic in the respect that if there's a God, I question that God because of some of the things I see happening that don't make sense. And I have always tried to make sense of the world that I live in, to make sense of my own life. I've always believed there has to be a meaning, there has to be a purpose. It can't be just something put here with no meaning and no purpose. That doesn't make sense, it doesn't resonate, it doesn't feel right. It's not a concept that I can even entertain, because life has to have a meaning, or otherwise why stay here? And over the past weeks, as I've faced some things that are more difficult than I've ever had to face before, there's been times that I've felt, God, this is too hard. I don't mind if you take me out. I'm not afraid to die. But I am afraid to live, because I don't want to live in a world that is chaotic and doesn't make sense. I want order in my life. I want some sense of security and stability in a world that's ever-changing and seems to be ever-changing more rapidly. One of the things that Spirit was impressing upon me even before my feet touched the floor this morning was the concept that it's all you, Ron. It's all happening inside of you. Now, when I think of myself as a puny little human being, that doesn't make any sense at all. It's all how could it all be inside of me? I'm just right here. I mean, and there's a whole bunch of stuff going on out there. But what Spirit has continued to do with me over the course of many years of my life, maybe not my entire life, but many years of my life, is to embrace the paradox. Embrace the idea that it's all happening inside of you. That the lawyers and the judges and the police and the soldiers and the bankers and all the people that are playing the dark roles are just as much a part of me as the people that are the light workers. That's difficult. I mean, I don't know about you, but that's a difficult thing to grasp, because I don't identify with those behaviors that these people exhibit. I don't identify with those. I am not indifferent to what's going on around me, which is why I have trouble accepting for very long except to entertain the thought, I have trouble believing that God could actually be indifferent and neutral. Because I'm not. And I can't be. I can't be neutral when I see somebody being abused. I can't be neutral when I see situations in the world that are totally unjust from everything that I can perceive and everything that I can know. It doesn't make sense. My heart naturally is empathic. I am naturally drawn toward the underdog, as I've said before, and trying to lift people up. And that includes the dark. The heart and mind of God. Jesus demonstrated for me the heart and mind of God. In the parable of the Good Shepherd, there was the one lost sheep that strayed from the flock. And he left the 99, or the 90 and 9, the 99%, and he went after the one that had fallen, the one that had gotten separated. He went after that one. And each of us have that lost sheep inside of us. It's the wounded child. It's the ego that spiritual people try to deny and say, well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Well, it does matter. Otherwise, you wouldn't have an ego. Otherwise, you wouldn't have it. And then the people that say, well, it's just an illusion, or it's just your body. You got to kill the body. You got to crucify the flesh. And we've had these religious ideas stuffed down our throat throughout generations, lifetimes. It's been going on as long as we can remember. Religion has taught separation. You're this, but you're not that. And Spirit keeps trying to get me to see, Ron, you're this and that too. I am that. I am. And Ho'oponopono played a role this morning in my meditation. And I was doing it as if it was God doing it. Because God created all that is. God is all that is. That's the best definition I have of God. All that is. Nothing is made that he didn't make. Nothing. That includes the so-called illusion. That includes so-called evil. I create good and I create evil. And they are alike unto me. Now that's not indifferent, because I would like you to choose life. I set before you life and death. Choose life. I set before you good and evil. Choose good. Why will you die? Why will you choose to suffer? O Prince of God, O Princess of the Divine Goddess, why would you choose to suffer? I place these choices before you. I place this all before you. I've created this so that you can make your own mind up which way you'd like to go, what you'd like to experience. And so often you choose the thing that hurts you the most. I would like you because my heart feels your pain. I'm not indifferent. I'm not indifferent. Please forgive me. I love you. I'm sorry. Thank you. I gave it all to you. I'm sorry. It's not my job to make your choices for you. It's your job. I'm sorry you hurt so much. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. I love you. That's the heart of God. That's the mind of Christ. That's the Buddhic path of the middle way that embraces both the suffering of the world and the bliss of the meditative state of nirvana. It's the same thing. We embrace it all. We embrace the paradox. Why? Because God does. Because God does. Do I know that for sure? Sometimes it sure doesn't seem it. It sure doesn't seem to me like God has much of a heart. But then when I have meditations like I had this morning, and like I have from time to time, when I'm not so engulfed in the problems that I'm facing, oh wow, God really does love me. God really does care. God really is guiding me. With all this legal stuff going on, it's hard to know which task I need to take on next. Which task I need to take on next. There's so much legal stuff. Do I like doing it? Of course not. But I have to do it. I have to do it because it's what Spirit has placed in front of me. And I have to do it with a place of love. I actually prayed again this morning for the people that seem like my abusers. And from my human perspective, there's no doubt about it. They are abusive. But I also know that in them is the spark of God. Whether they realize it or not is irrelevant. I know it. I know that there's nothing that exists that doesn't have God in it. God is invisible and yet unavoidable. Everywhere you turn, there's order in the chaos if you look. There's peace, even in the storm, if you look for it. And I was pondering all of these things in my meditation this morning, as I sat out in the atrium under the full moon. It was quiet, except for a period of a few minutes, maybe 4 or 5 minutes it seemed like. There was the sound of a rushing something, and I didn't see any jets going over, but it was like a jet, but it wasn't like moving away. It was constant right there for a fairly significant chunk of time, as I said, maybe 4 or 5 minutes. And then all of a sudden it stopped, just as quickly as it came. It's not like it came in, it was there, it was loud and all there present, and it stayed for a period of time and then it disappeared. I don't know what that was. I'm not sure. But mostly it was just quiet. Because the moon was so bright, I didn't see hardly any stars. But it was still, just still. And in that stillness, God was saying, I'm this, and I'm the noise too. I'm all of it. I'm all of it. And I care, and I feel, and I am all of it. All of it. I sometimes look at what's going on in the world, just looking at the United States and all of the free man and sovereignty movements and all the people that are pulling this way and pulling that way, and then wondering why it doesn't come together. And I had the thought this morning, which I've had other times too, that the reason it doesn't come together, the reason it isn't funded, is because we haven't learned that we're all on the same team. We're each trying to do it our way. You know, there's the Tim Turner Republic, and I love Tim. The more I get to know Tim Turner, the more I love him. And I don't care what you think about him or anybody else. I think the man has a real heart for God and for wanting to do what's best. But then I listen to Drake. Drake doesn't like Tim Turner, apparently. And Terry Hinkle doesn't like Tim Turner, apparently. And then there's the Postmaster General of the United States. And there's other people, each doing their own thing. When are we going to learn to grow up and to forgive? And to realize that each of us are playing a part. Each of us are playing a role. And when we learn to stop thinking separation, which is a religion that has been pushed down our throat, and some call the religion Christianity, others call it Islam, or whatever you want to call it, whatever name and label you want to put on it, it's separation. It won't work. I'm telling you, it won't work. When you're trying to separate, God loves. The heart of God is to heal and to take in even the lost sheep. When are you going to get it? When am I going to get it? When are we going to grow up and start thinking as spiritually mature beings that recognize the interconnectedness of all life and stop wanting to punish and leave behind other people. Now, other people may have the choice to leave themselves behind. That's free will. But when we adopt the attitude of they're not worthy, they're only worthy of punishment, well, then we've forgotten the other part of justice. Justice is always coexistent with mercy. And when you leave the mercy off, it's never going to be just. It's only going to be more tyranny. It's just the way I see it. Do I have all the answers? Of course not. Nobody does. But I do feel the heart of God from time to time, a lot. And the mind of Christ. I sense that. And it's about unity. It's not about separation. I leave you with these thoughts this morning. And I trust that you will weigh them in your own heart. And trust your gut as you move forward. Trust that God, the creator of us all, is leading us along a path that we do not know to a destination that is beautiful and wonderful. Thank you for letting me share with you. Namaste.